Sure, Veronica, and let's talk about Manna. The slaves that were freed by the murderer, he was the leader. He had a magic wand and he happened to get them across a body of water. He was able to separate the waters and they went through, magic wand going through the waters. And the guys that came after them, because they had changed their minds, they no longer wanted the slaves to be free. They drowned. Remember that story? Now, when they got to the wilderness, they were there for 40 years. They were going right up the street, but they were in the wilderness for 40 years. Now, some people would say that they were confused, but from reading other stories surrounding that story, it was said that the slaves could not enter, let's call it the promised land. Okay. The slaves could not enter the promised land. They had to reproduce. They had to have new flesh, new kids. And their kids were able to enter. But the old timers, the ones who tasted slavery, were not allowed to go into the promised land. I like that part better. I like that story better. But anyhow, let's talk about Manna. 40 years in the wilderness, and they were fed by what? What was bringing the food? A UFO? A helicopter? A plane? From a 21st century plane that went through time and space to feed them, to drop stuff from the sky? Was it a cloud? What machinery was used to give them manna or food? And how did they know? Who told them not to take more than they needed? Do not hoard food, like you could save it for the next day. And when they took a little bit too much, it is said that it soured quickly. It went bad. So what were they using for the days that the food went bad? Like, for instance, let's say they got the food a Friday evening. It lasted like one day. Correct me if I'm wrong. And we want to know, what did they eat for the 6 days after that, or maybe the next 5 days after that? What were they eating? And where did they have the strength to do all that procreating and the babies coming up and nursing and the mothers having water? Where did all the water come from? Where did the prenatal drugs, vitamins that women usually get to build their bodies up, where did that come from? That's what we want to know. Why did this story survive being printed in a holy book? And not only that, many people who believe that story would say now in the 21st century to people who may see flying objects in the sky, they will call them conspiracy theorists. That's what you will call them. And in the Bible, and I'm going to go through it with other videos, in the Bible, all throughout the Bible, they have supernatural happenings. There are supernatural happenings in the Bible. But yet, a Christian can look at someone now and call them a conspiracy theorist, or what they're talking about cannot happen, what they're talking about did not happen. But what happened in the desert? 40 years of a cloud, a spaceship, a UFO, 40 years of magical manna falling from the sky. Please send me a photo or advise me of the technology that was used to feed the slaves in the desert before they were allowed into the promised land. Chef Veronica.